Okay, let's use Excel to calculate present values. So let's get started. We'll put in N as the number of periods, often that's years. I percentage is the interest rate per period. Payments, the payment that the investment makes, if any. Future value. Payment type, we'll put that in according to how Excel interprets the payment type, whether it's ordinary annuity or annuity due. And down here I'll put in present value. See, that doesn't really fit in the column well, so if I come up here and double click, see that solid cross? Double click with the left mouse and you get present value. Let's highlight highlight this in yellow. That will be our input data and the output will come here. And maybe we'll put a little title up here so if we glance at the spreadsheet we'll know, okay, this is the present value spreadsheet that's we're working with. Present value. I put that in bold type and I changed the font up here, you'll see, to 16 and it's bold. And I used merge and center when I did this. I highlighted cells A and B and pressed merge and center. Okay, now let's do this for a bond. We could value a bond with this spreadsheet. Let's say the bond matures in 19 years, at which point it'll pay out its $1,000 par value. And let's say the coupon interest rate is 6.2%. So that means it'll pay $62 a year. 6.2% of $1,000 is $62 a year. Let's put both of those. So what I did here, I had this one, the cursor on this one. I hit shift and the down arrow, and I lit up the second one as well, the column below, and I hit dollar. And let's say the market right now is requiring that bond to yield 5.9%. That's a fair return today if I buy that bond. And let's say I'm going to receive my first payment a year from today. So that's going to be an ordinary annuity. If I'm going to receive my first $62 payment a year from today. So here I'm buying the bond, and the first payment I'm going to receive is a year from today. I have to wait a year. If I were going to receive that payment right away, I would use anything but zero. So what I'm saying here is if you put zero here, Excel recognizes this annuity. There's an annuity here. There's $1,962 payments in addition to the lump sum $1,000 at the end. It recognizes the annuity as an ordinary annuity when there's a zero there. If there's anything but zero there, it recognizes it as an annuity due, which would mean that you're going to receive your first payment right away. You buy the bond and very soon you get that first payment. But we're going to deal with a bond that we're going to assume is an ordinary annuity. I'm going to buy the bond today and my first $62 payment is going to occur in a year. Now I want to put a little notice here to the user of the spreadsheet, myself or anybody else who I lend it to, of whether Excel is recognizing this as an ordinary or annuity due. So I'm going to use an if then else. Put equals if, open parentheses. If this cell, B7, equals 0, then we want Excel to show ordinary annuity. Close the quote. Comma, if it's anything but 0, it's an annuity due. And close the quote and close the parentheses. Good. So if I put any other number in here, I have an annuity due. So Excel recognizes 0 as an ordinary annuity, anything other than 0 as an annuity due. So let's calculate the present value. So I'm going to put in equals PV, open parentheses. Okay, see what it tells you exactly. It calls for the rate. Well, that's in cell B4. Then it calls for the number of periods. See that blue just highlighted there? That's in cell B3. Then it calls for the payment, cell B5. Then it calls for the future value, cell B6. And then it calls for the type that I just described, and that's in cell B7. And then close parentheses. So the value of that bond today is $1,033.74. If you want your value to come out as a positive number, you could just put in a negative in front of the PV. See right there, I put in a negative right in front of the PV. Okay. Now, let's say it's an annuity due. In other words, you get your first payment right away. Well, I could set that to 1 or 0.2 or negative 0.002. And notice that this doesn't change. If that's 0, Excel is figuring the first $62 payment's going to occur in a year. If it's anything other than 0, it's going to occur right away. So we're going to keep it at 0. And so that's how you would value a bond using this present value spreadsheet. But you could do more than that. You might come back tomorrow to the spreadsheet. You close it out and you open it back up and you decide, you know what? I want to know how much money do I have to invest today at 10.2% interest. I'm going to make payment 0. There are no payments. This is the present value of a lump sum. In order to have $1 million. Notice something here. So you would have to invest $12,642.36 today at 10.2%, and that would give you $1 million in 45 years. That's what we figured out. Notice here when payment 0, it doesn't really matter whether this is an annuity or annuity due. The answer doesn't change, and that's because there are no payments. Another person might come around and say, you know what? How much do I have to have in retirement assets today? Can I retire? How much do I have to have in retirement assets today in order to fund an annuity? I'm going to be retired for, let's say, 30 years. I'm going to have my assets invested in stocks and bonds, which are expected to yield 7%. And I want to pay myself make it $35,000 per year, plus I'll get my Social Security, but we want to find the present value of $35,000 a year. And at the end of the 30 years, I'm going to pay myself 0. And so you're really finding the present value of an ordinary annuity. In other words, what we figured out is this person to retire today needs $434,316.44. That would give her enough money to pay her $35,000 a year for 30 years, given her money's invested. What money? That money. This money right here is invested at 7%. This $434,316.44. And next year there'll be a little less in there because she's going to pull out. But whatever's left in there is expected to get a yield of 7%. And she might say, you know what? We better do an annuity due because I'm going to retire today and I won't have any money coming in. So I want my first payment right away. And so I would expect, since we're pulling the money out earlier, each payment's coming out earlier, we're going to need a little bit more in present value. And indeed, the spreadsheet does demonstrate that. Here she did $464,718.59. So you could do a lot with this spreadsheet. You could value bonds. You can find the present value of single amounts. And you could find the present value of annuities, including ones that are ordinary annuity versus ones that are annuity due. So this concludes our spreadsheet on present value.